Good evening to everyone who is joining us. We're going to get the ball rolling here. My name is David, and I'm a bookseller at Literati Bookstore, and we're pleased to welcome contributors to Michigan Quarterly Review's Spring 2023 special issue, SomaFlights. And a quick webinar overview for our attendees. The chat is closed, but live transcription is available on your toolbar. And you can also shop for more books at literatibookstore.com to have shipped to your home anywhere in the United States. If you live in Southeastern Michigan, our doors are open to the public for in-store shopping. And most of all, we'd like to thank you for your attendance this evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for being here. And now to introduce tonight's readers, welcome guest editors Vidhu Aggarwal and U-M professor Petra Kuppers.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so I just want to give a hand to everybody who is all of our contributors and all of you out here who we can't see, who is coming to join us for our interspecies docking. Okay, I want to start off by just thanking Petra Kuppers for asking me to join in this SomaFlights adventure. And also the amazing team at Michigan Quarterly Review, who we just had a ball with them. Khaled, Polly, Laurel, Carlina, who is here, okay, poetry editor, Irvi, Aaron, Tyler, and Dana. And I'm going to hand it over to Petra here, who we had a sort of mind meld with this issue, didn't we?
We did. We had a total mind meld. It was wonderful to do this. And my first thanks go to you, Vidhu. This was just a most wonderful experience to do this with you. We had a beautiful time editing, and we had such a wonderful time with the whole team. Thank you, everybody at Michigan Quarterly Review. You're a delight to work with, and I see some of the team also in the attendee list. So we're so glad you're here, and Kalina is here as well. And I'm so happy to have all these contributors here, because of course in these days we don't necessarily get to see one another. So it's so beautiful to see your faces as we've gotten so familiar with your writing, and we're so delighted to have your work in SomaFlights. And I just want to just end saying hello by just reading the last two sentences from the introduction that Vidhu and I co-wrote. We begin to feel this issue is less a curation than an activation of community. In this reach, in art making and in living artful lives, we find allegiances. We make a world in which we can live. So thank you so much for responding to this invitation to be part of this activation and for making a world in which we can live. We are delighted to be on the journey with you all. Here we go, and I hand it over to Kalina.
Thank you. Thanks, Petra, and welcome everyone. I'm so excited to celebrate this issue. It's in front of me right now. What a beautiful issue. As Petra and Vidhu noted, I'm Carlina. I'm the poetry editor at MQR, and I want to reiterate what a gift and a pleasure it was to just learn from and feel inspired by all the work in this gorgeous issue. So many poems and prose and just like hybrid visual experiments that really made me feel in flight while reading. And I also feel, at MQR, I think we all feel so fortunate to co-create and collaborate with both contributors and our guest editors, Petra and Vidhu. So I do want to just send a bouquet of gratitude to Petra and Vidhu on behalf of MQR for your gorgeous vision and your collective collaborative ethos in shaping this issue. Thank you so much. I can't wait to hear these readings tonight. So showering confetti on all our contributors, and I guess let the festivities begin. I'll pass it back to Vidhu.
Thank you, Carlina. It was wonderful working with you. We laughed so much and just we're in awe, okay, of your work. So I want to start off by introducing Teresa Carmody, who has an amazing prose piece in this issue. Teresa Carmody is the author of The Reconception of Marie, Maison Femme, a Fiction, and Requiem. Their short stories and essays have appeared in LA Review of Books, Lit Hub, WHR, Two Serious Ladies Diagram, St. Petersburg Review, and more. She co-founded Le Figue Press and currently directs Stetson University's MFA program in Florida. Her next book, A Healthy Interest in the Lives of Others, great title, is forthcoming from Autofocus Books. Thank you, Teresa.
Yay, thank you so much. And thank you again, Petra and Vidhu and everybody at MQR for putting together this issue. It's amazing. So I'm going to screen share and I'm going to just read a little bit from the beginning, and also just the part that you're getting is sort of the part, this essay, I have been invited actually by Petra and Vidhu to join a panel at AWP on feminisms, contemporary feminisms. And I started on an instinct to collect definitions of what feminist art might be before I really knew what I was going to present. And then I started, I have a divinatory practice, so I started pulling cards to figure out what I was actually going to present, like what that moment was calling for. And this memory sort of that I wrote about emerged. So I'm going to read just from the beginning of the essay and show some of the definitions as well, which come through, interspersed throughout the essay. So I'm going to screen share. Okay, so everybody can see that. Okay, so moving the inconsequential loop, somatics, feminisms. Here is a story, particular in its expression, common in its effect. In 2009, I was part of a panel on experimental at an experimental writing conference hosted by the University of Buffalo, New York. The panel had been convened by a friend and writer I admire. It was titled Inconsequentiality, Why It's Important. I was presenting alongside this friend, my then spouse, and a white male writer I did not know. At the time, I was working on a much earlier version of my novel, The Reconception of Marie, since published by Spite and Duyvil. The novel draws on my working class white evangelical childhood in the US Midwest to narrate a young woman's coming into awareness of her intellectual, sexual, and spiritual self. The novel, like me, is feminist, anti-authoritarian, and queer. At the conference, I presented a performative lecture about the novel in progress. I began with a PowerPoint presentation that purposefully proved nothing before moving into a reading from the manuscript written as a 13-year-old girl's diary. I called my paper, A Diary is a Yes Indeed. Aside from my friend on the panel, my other friends at the conference, including my then spouse, were attending a concurring panel on queer failure. The organizers had accidentally scheduled my then spouse to speak at both events at the same time. So for this panel, I would read her paper and then read mine. When it was time for my presentation, I stood at the center of the room. There was a music stand and something to hold my computer so I could push the arrow button next. The other panelist sat at a table to my right. When I reached the section of my paper that turned into the 13-year-old girl's voice, the male panelist got up and walked toward me. I continued to read. He stood to my right and began unbuttoning his shirt. I was confused about his presence, about what he was doing. Something seemed off. I continued to read. He proceeded to take off his pants, his t-shirt, his socks. He stood just behind me so I could see him from the corner of my eye. He stripped down to his boxers while I continued to read from my novel, written in the voice of an adolescent girl. No one in the audience said anything. I did not say anything. I did not look at him as I finished and returned to the table. I felt a cloud in my head, a deep fog, familiar. I remember sitting there afterward, numb, not quite believing, knowing something really fucked up had just happened, but not processing the fullness of it. My nervous system had, I now realized, gone into a combination of freeze and placation. I was disassociated, determined to appear professional, to appear not upset. Why am I telling you this story? And what if I told you that I had to piece this story back together because I blocked it out? Writing is something we do and that is done to us. We write with our bodies, and our bodies are written by the social and historical scripts that surround us. I have found that divination and other forms of spiritual practice are a way to get at that which we have not yet perceived. Maybe our brain is protecting us. Maybe we are not yet ready or able to receive that knowledge. Divination helps me to move into a space of openness, of listening. And I'm going to end there. Thank you so much.
It's amazing. Thank you so much, Teresa. I'm sure everybody wants to know how this story continues. Please read. You'll find out how this story continues, how this blank, this hole in a story continues. And it's my pleasure to introduce Michael Chang, them. They are the author of several collections of poetry, including Almanac of Useless Talents with Clash Books 2022 and Synthetic Jungle, Northwestern University Press 2023. Tapped to edit Lambda Literary's Emerge anthology, they have been nominated for Best New Poets, Best of the Net, and the Pushcart Prize. They were awarded the Poetry Project's prestigious Brannan Prize and serve as a poetry editor at the acclaimed journal Fence. Michael, over to you.
Hi, thanks everyone. This is the book, Synthetic Jungle. I like the cover, I designed it. I guess I'll read like very quick things, just 3 or 4 if that's okay. This one's called Einstein. There's nothing you can do. We've started living an alternate reality. However many times, lamb over rice, busier than the morgue. Worker bees abuzz, thank you for the green bowl in the middle of Grand Central, handing cash to commuters, otters bobbing defiantly. We may be overrun, out of touch, caught in the rain with you. Did I look good or Hailey Bieber coded? Was I drunk? I wasn't kidding about the teeth. And then this one's called Sorrow. Obsessed with your black nylon shorts, we hate what we have released, like the tide, something to run after, sent to the closet, never to emerge. The ultimate compliment, I am where a weed can grow. Don't turn your back on me. 2 assistants, lots of lunches, brain power expended on needy young butchers. My peers have no respect. The harbor master's prom recorded in your little ledger. What's a prom? Half a promise. Friendship is on the decline. Teasing shards, twin beds pushed together. Things are not what they seem. Poetry cataloging, societal ills, the error of your ways. Resist the urge, deign an apology. We've seen better days. If you're not an aircraft, why are you announcing your departure? One last thing, wild boy with penis envy. Take what you can fit in your pockets. Take it all. This one is, let's see. This one's called Without Protection. Summer is the most New York of seasons. It is also the stinkiest, like a white dom after a poke bowl. I can't explain this odd feeling of being so close to you, yet more apart than ever before. To you, I say, release your seed. To the woman entering the liquor store, I say, you need it, honey. I suppose it is a matter of distance, a plum diplomatic posting, England or France. I can't bear to look out the window, which has an unimpeded view of downtown, a straight shot. I associate you with downtown because you're young and hot, although I myself lived in the village for several years. The time we wasted could have been spent answering the questions of 1,000 children, coyotes howling across a valley, or Frank's quip about how someone who didn't like him could say, sure, all you have to do is show him Larry Rivers or the sea, and out comes a poem. And I think about its application to us. If there is indeed an us, and we live in a world where that is still possible, all you have to do is show me your name, and out comes a poem. Ultimately, what it boils down to is this: when it comes to you, I have always been selfless. Just one more. This one's called Wonderland Coup. In terms of marrying outside the faith, it is permitted. Speak your tenses, reach into your Under Armour. Alt-right Catholic schoolgirl, there is no fear, only Wendy with the pigtails. Chipmunk Paul thinks boys in shorts will be the death of me. I'm sure we'll meet again. The male Heather was extremely professional. I am the one who is Demi Lovato, a mouth for life, my muse, immense and powerful. Your body opens like the bay. I have to celebrate. Give me that bitter puntarel. I get caught up, completed some shit. I get caught up, more unfinished business. Do I raise plow or attempt a tenka? It was big then. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. We're so happy to have your work. I'm going to now introduce Megan Milks. I love this essay, incidentally. Megan Milks is the author of Margaret and the Mystery of the Missing Body, named a finalist for the Lambda Literary Award in Transgender Fiction, and Slug and Other Stories, both published by Feminist Press. They are working on a memoir and essays called Mega Milk, about my name and family and fluidity and whiteness and cows. Great title. They live in Brooklyn. Give it up to Megan Milk.
Thanks so much. It's really great to be here, and thank you, Vidhu and Petra, and Carolina and everyone else at MQR. It was so great to get invited to write something for this issue, because I've been working on this book about milk, and I just loved the prompt of like thinking about something related to SomaFlights. And I help but think of this book.
Okay, Megan, I think you're frozen. Is Megan frozen for other people?
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, they're
My
back.
bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Your voice is back.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my internet has been acting funky. Yep, there's the message. Anyway, so I wrote an essay about Maurice Sendak in the Night Kitchen. And I'll just read a little bit from it. Okay, I'm still here. Okay, this is called Night Milk. On the subject of milk, Gail tells me about Maurice Sendak in the Night Kitchen, which she is able to quote readily, having read it often with her kids. I'm visiting her in St. Louis and finally meeting her two children, who are now 5 and 3. We're well into the pandemic, and Gail and her partner have had few people over. To their older child, I'm a new audience for his exuberant, arrhythmic dance moves. To the younger, I'm a strange object who has come from beyond. He will keep a wide, uncertain eye on me at all times. The book sounds wild, something about a boy and a massive milk bottle. Gail hunts down their copy, and I page through it at the kitchen table, a few steps from the gallon of milk in the fridge. Here's the storyline. Waking up in the middle of the night, toddler protagonist Mickey tumbles down through his house and out of his clothes into the night kitchen below, where he lands in a bowl of cake batter. The night kitchen into which he has fallen, here's this page, is a surreal dreamscape, a kitchen that is also a city. Flour sacks and jam jars double as buildings. A slender, unlabeled bottle stretches to the stars, the highest skyscraper. When he drops into the bowl, 3 look-alike bakers, rotund and disproportionately large, mistake Mickey for milk. Gleaming with a jolly malevolence underscored by their Hitler mustaches, the bakers fold him in. Story time. Milk in the batter, they chant ritualistically. Scrape it, make it, bake it. One baker carries the loaf toward the oven, next to which another waits, gazing at the bread bump as if entranced. The third baker rests an arm along the top of the stove, labeled Mickey Oven. But just before the bakers slide him into the rack, our worthy hero sprouts from the top of the loaf to declare, I'm not the milk and the milk's not me. I'm Mickey. I love that line. The bakers seem to have been well aware of this, as evidenced by their Mickey oven, but Mickey does not know that they know, and so with the unsettling confidence of a well-adjusted child, announces himself as himself. He's Mickey. Oh, to be so sure of oneself. Oh, to know one's name. If only I shared this self-knowledge. A more conventional story might end here, but this is Sendak, beloved for his strange worlds and surreal logics. Now that Mickey has come to understand what he is, Mickey, and what he is not, milk, he takes it upon himself to go in search of replacement milk. First, he outfits himself in a roomy jumpsuit made of batter. Then he creates a Mickey-sized batter-based airplane. Finally, he grabs the baker's measuring cup and plants it on his head, a hat. Now he's off to get milk the Mickey way, which involves flying high over this night kitchen to find, what's that we see? An impossibly tall bottle glowing brightly against the night sky. And what does it hold? Pale and opaque? It's milk. This book is so weird. Mickey dives out of the airplane and into the bottle where his bread suit easily disintegrates. He floats, singing, I am in the milk and the milk's in me. God bless milk and God bless me. After a quick, joyful swim, he fills the measuring cup, climbs to the lip of the bottle, and in one long, unbroken stream, pours the milk into the sticky batter below. The bakers get busy, mixing, beating, baking, and Mickey, his mission accomplished, goes to bed. Okay, I'm gonna skip ahead. Let's see. There's a kind of analysis of this song, or of the book through various lenses, kind of exploring various questions around it. I'll move to the, this is an abridged version of the last few pages. In the night kitchen is a homosocial world. Mickey has parents, but in his dream, they are sleeping. This is true of Sendak's work generally. His stories are about children on their own, bodies encountering other bodies, contact with strange other worlds, as delightful as they are potentially dangerous. Mickey's dream initiates a sensory education, much of which is enabled by his nudity. Which brings me to an obvious point. Mickey's misrecognition as milk relies on his whiteness. His skin is painted with the palest pink, subtly distinct from the this is a white child, white as nude. And in fact, for this fable's surreal narrative logic to hold, Mickey must be a milk white child. Sendak was an atheist, I learned. He did not believe in the Judeo-Christian God. That's more related to the part I skipped over. He was also queer. He came out publicly a few years before he died at 83. Long before he came out, In the Night Kitchen had been challenged by parents and librarians on the basis of its gay subliminal messaging. In this reading, the milk bottle is a phallic image. When he tastes the milk, semen, and sings, I'm in the milk and the milk's in me, it could be read as an initiation into gay sex. I like this reading the best, mainly for its absurdity. But the enduring association of gay men. When I read In the Night Kitchen, I'm not the milk, I'm Mickey. But I also understand that I'm not or no longer Mickey. The kids are Mickey. If I'm anyone, I'm not absent mom or absent dad. I'm the gay baker, the childless and child-hungry threat. Back in St. Louis, when Gail's youngest looks at me with alarm, part of me thinks he's right. It's true, I am disrupting the hub of their home, their flow and routine. He wails through the night. I worry that my strange presence has disturbed him. Have I brought upsetting energies into the house? Have I introduced new germs? He can't fall asleep, which means he can't fall into the night kitchen. None of us can. We can't fall, so we can't fly. I hear Gail or her partner move in and out of his room, offering comfort. After a few hours, he settles. Together, we dream. I fall down through the ceiling of the makeshift guest room. I fall into the night kitchen, where I catch sight of Gail, blurry and receding. Her partner tilts a measuring cup of milk into her mouth. Rivulets run down her chin and onto her chest. She's not the milk, but the milk's in her. The boys glug their glasses with 2 hands. Soon there's no more milk. It's up to me to get it. I float up into the Milky Way, rising out of my clothes. I am white, but not milk white. I am freckled and tattooed. My torso flashes silvery in the night. I'm a minnow on a mission. Milk. I stretch my body from cloud to cloud. In the distance, a sea of cloudy froth. I swim up to another layer of atmosphere. I don't see a bottle, but I see a cow. What's your name? I ask her. Moon, she tells me. I start to announce I'm Megan, or Milks, or Mickey. I'll decide when the word pops out. But language leaves me as she rubs her belly against mine. Her udder is swollen and heavy, stretched like an overfull water balloon. She nudges me, and now I'm milking. Her teats are like bristly dicks, thick and full. I don't, but I figure it out. And when I pull her, there's moonlight. I direct the milk down, bringing it home to my friends and their children, to the night kitchen, to the world below. I pull and pull. We find a rhythm. The cow groans with the pleasure of release. When the milk runs out, she shakes me away and trots off, swallowed up in the night. Cock-a-doodle-doo. I'm receiving my sensory education. My skin is alive with the cool air, the mist from the clouds, the warm glow of the milk light. My name doesn't matter. I'm a body in the world, floating, falling, awake now and ready for cake. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Megan. It's an amazing piece, and I encourage everybody to read all the different layers that Megan bakes into this particular pie of a story. It's fabulous. And it's my pleasure to introduce Olivia Muenz. Olivia is a disabled writer from New York. She's the author of the poetry collection I Feel Fine, Switchback Books 2023, which won the 2022 Gatewood Prize, and the chapbook Where Was I Again? Essay Press 2022. She holds an MFA from Louisiana State University, where she earned the Robert Penn Warren Thesis Award in Prose and served as an editor for the New Delta Review. Her work has appeared or is forthcoming in the Massachusetts Review, the Missouri Review, Gulf Coast, Black Warrior Review, Pleiades, Denver Quarterly, and the Adroit Journal. And it's a particular pleasure to introduce Olivia because she and I are now Zooglosssia Fellows. Yay, the newest announcement just this week. So happy. I hand it over to you, Olivia.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, I'm so excited that we'll get to do that together. It'll be so great. Thank you all for coming to this reading. I'm excited to read with everyone here and just be in this issue. It's such an incredible issue, so I hope everyone reads it beginning to end if they can. I'm just going to be reading my piece, which is a piece of flash fiction called Patient. It's actually my first piece of fiction ever, so I was excited to have that. I wrote it in the midst of a very long period of bad health, physical and mental. And I just found that people have a great way of showing up with acute problems of any kind, but when it's chronic, it's much more difficult for some reason. So I was just feeling especially grateful for the caretakers in my life that repeatedly show up for me. So this is called Patient. I was sick of language, so I started collecting rocks. Each time I had a thought, I'd throw a rock into a lake. The people in town couldn't get it. They tried very hard. They thought maybe I'd lost the ability to speak, so they started writing me letters in a show of solidarity. When they placed a full envelope next to me, I put a rock on top of it. They thought I was holding down language in case of a great wind. We're inside, they'd remind me, and I'd place a rock on their heads. Unsure what to do, they all learned sign language. This moved me so much, I rolled a boulder into a lake. It took all day. There were always hard hands in my face. The more desperate they grew, the wilder their arms flailed. They looked like windmills. When I caught an open palm, I put a rock in it. The townspeople became more serious. They held council meetings twice a week to get me back to language. At first, they focused on the why. They went to every nearby hospital trying to find my medical records. But there were attendants at each entrance whose job it was to bash in the skulls of anyone who came looking for answers. On their corpses, I placed the prettiest rocks I could find. The townspeople wept into a lake at all the casualties. They no longer cared about the why, which I would have told them to not care about in the first place if I had had the right rock. They decided to go after my supply. In shifts, volunteers swept the town until they'd collected every rock they could find. They presented the mound of rocks to me, closed off by barbed wire. What do you have to say to that? I opened my mouth and pulled out a rock. They realized they were working against something supernatural. They took down the barbed wire and planted flowers all around the rocks and dug a path to the middle of the pile where they made a crater filled with an array of cushions and cookies and candles. Go ahead, sit in your rocks, they said gently. We'll keep watch. And so I walked to the cushy place and took a nap. And when I woke up, I collected the best rocks I could find and spelled out ILOVEYOU. It says I love you, I told him. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We were so moved by your story, Olivia. I just want you to know. Okay. Yes, we're so happy that you submitted it. Okay, so I get the great pleasure of introducing Heidi, Andrea, Restrepo, Rhodes, she, they. Heidi is a queer, sick, disabled, brown Colombian poet, scholar, educator, and cultural worker. She is the author of The Inheritance of Haunting, University of Notre Dame Press, 2019, and their chapbook, Ephemeral, the 2022 winner of the Lorca Latinx Poetry Prize, will be published by Eco Theo Collective in 2023. She wants to swim with you in the raucous and joyful possibilities of crypt poetics and abolition dreams. Let's hand it to Heidi.
Thank you. Thank you so much to everybody that made this incredible issue happen, as well as this gathering today. In the interest of time, I'm not going to read my entire epigraph to my poem, but I'll just read a tiny bit. It's from Erin Manning's Always More Than One. And she writes, "What if neither skin nor self were the starting point for the complex interrelational matrix of being and worlding?" This poem is titled, "In the Neuroqueer Universe, I Kin Across the Quantum Field." All this withness of body worlding, and I am neither skin nor self when I weave. A diffraction and interference pattern, light bending over the razor's edge. The voice of your eyes is deeper than all roses. Synesthetic orchestration. Yes, hearing is a looking, is a touching, and a scent. Yes, loving, let's remember, is a knowing, sensing, tending, tuning. And seeing you feelingly near and far, all distance is mere illusion. Though theories of locality will tell you that our senses contain, everywhere and all around, a subatomic oceaning abyss. Whatever electron perversity sings of heretical and miscreant substance is us, is with. The self, estranged, an antique thing, still cogging in the happiness machine. Listen, beyond the lonely field, there is no object, only motion, the roll of cresting waves alive in every point in space and time, a coordinate music of bodies and gravitation, all tendency between us a reaching toward and reaching toward. What appears to be surface, a manifold topology of instants. My therapist tells me I am too much infinity, a sensate chaos needing the intervention of centripetal force, to take a rule and find where I begin and others end so I can distinguish need, cure myself into distinction, either or. But the verse heating up my hand says who homes themselves in taxonomy will never wholly kiss the world. Oh, I swear by all the stars, there is home in the galactic filament. The thing is, events too distant in space and close in time are not always born by the signals we expect. And so I tomorrow tend chosen family from the orbits of last year, today from next century, see? I do not know your name yet, but I'm feeling with you the sun's warmth. I unfold toward you by that transport, spooky action always. I can supposedly you only find by the fetish of psychiatric progress that punishes me into one. The atomized individual entity, cruel myth of modernity serving brutal extraction, apotheosis of asymptote, Copernican metaphysics, Newtonian causation. Paradigms of pathology and concrete moral code, the loneliest world ever known. We wander into water as the tree is me and all the bees. Entanglement, mycorrhizal expanse, prismatic and nourished by uncertainty. All my brains a mingling, all my bodies a cohabitation, not now and never knowing who we are. Every fission and mitosis, every gathering in the plank lengths, ephemeral and reaching toward, to the scattering and the stuttering. O particles, O poets, O marigolds and bears, O Jupiter, O hyphae telephoning in the soil, O assemblage of time-leaping universes birthing us recurrently mid-flight. I kin you, I kin you, I kin you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love this poem. Unfolding toward kinships of all kinds. It's wonderful to have this poem here. And I love how it's connecting in so many ways across so many of the contributors here and also in other parts. I'm particularly thinking of Gabrielle Civil's Jupiter that we also have in the online folio. So I'm so glad about this one. And also, you're also a Zooglossia fellow, right? So we have 3 Zooglossia fellows here now, which is great. And Zooglossia People is a disabled poets association, relatively new, newer than many of the other associations out there. And I'm very glad to celebrate that. And I'm going to hand it now over to Lorraine. Lorraine Schein is a New York writer and poet. Her work has appeared in Terraform on Vice, Strange Horizons, NewMyths.com, Underland Arcana, and the anthologies Wild Women and Tragedy Queens, stories inspired by Lana Del Rey and Sylvia Plath. The Futurist Mistress, a poetry book, is available from Mayapple Press. Her new book, The Lady Anarchist's Cafe, is out now from Autonomedia. I'm so glad to hand it over to you and to Zodiac Station.
I think you need to unmute. Okay, wait, let me see if I can.
That's more on the side of literary writing. And so I'm going to read my prose poem from the journal. Zodiac Station. Zodiac Station was designed by 2 Gemini twins, an astrologer and an aerospace engineer. 12 arms radiated from the central control room, 1 for each sign. In the Cancer sector, a lunar specialist studied the moons of all known and unknown planets. Her blue bathroom had a huge crescent-shaped tub. An arachnologist, ornithologist, and herpetologist lived in the Scorpio sector and kept their respective scorpions, eagles, and lizard specimens in their home tanks. The Pisces sector housed ichthyologists studying alien fish. Each had an aquarium in their ceiling and shared a giant central swimming pool. The station's control room, stabilized with artificial gravity, was staffed by all the earth signs, where Taurians, Capricorns, and Virgos felt most grounded and in command. The air signs, Geminis, Aquarians, and Libras, happiest with weightlessness, always volunteered first for walking in space assignments like hull repairs and mending solar panels. Fire signs were the deep space explorers. Leos, the stellar experts, investigated other suns, and Sagittarian surveyors explored exoplanets, though they were only interested in ones that were bigger than Jupiter. The ram-shaped shuttle that launched from the station's port was helmed by a married team of confident Aries astronauts who always wanted to be the first to discover anything. Earth's skies had become so polluted, it was hard to see the old constellations. So the further goal of Zodiac Station was to travel to the extragalactic habitable planets to describe their stellar configurations. The station astrologers advised the most auspicious time to send down an exploratory team, and then the team would meet with historians, linguists, and poets to propose names for the new constellations. After several generations had settled the new planets, their constellations would inspire a new astrology, replacing Earth's zodiac. When the settlers' children looked up in the night sky, they would see new patterns and animals. Amphisbaena, the two-headed snake, the microphage and the tardigrade in the biosphere cluster, the second Buddha in the Lotus galaxy, and the six-string guitar in the Bowie system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. I am so amazed even at this reading, if we go back to Teresa's work, how we're creating a sort of somatic loop, right? Through all of this work. It's one of the things that Petra and I just found so wonderful about all of the submissions and how they started speaking to each other. So I have the great pleasure of introducing Dom Witten, whose poems we were just so excited about. Okay, just so that you know. Okay, so Dom Witten is a Black poet raised on the end of a one-way street in Detroit, Michigan, and the co-founder of the Poetics Lab. She received her MFA from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. Dom's poems are published or forthcoming in Heck's Literary, Radar Poetry, Black Minds Mag, the Greensboro Review, and the Lindenwood Review. She is the winner of the 2022 Ammon Liner Poetry Award and the 2022 Academy of American Poets Prize at UNC Greensboro. Thank you, Don.
Thank you so much for this entire reading, all the work that you all have done on this issue, and also all of the readers who have come before me. I'm very excited to read this poem. It's called Shopping List for the Exorcist. It has an epigraph by Toni Morrison. I think my favorite thing about this poem in particular is that I never finished reading the book of Beloved in high school, like most children who are against Toni Morrison when they're 15 and then realize she's absolutely wonderful. But I think about when you are packing your things for your exorcism in the same way that people in movies are like, there's a water breaking in the living room, someone's pregnant, and people start bringing random ass shit from the house to help bring a child into the world. Like, what are you doing with twine? So I thought I would write a poem in the spirit of bringing random ass shit to exorcisms. So shopping list for the exorcist. Some brought what they could and what they believed would work. Toni Morrison's Beloved. Bagged lotion and bagged milk, and black expo markers, chisel tip, and stowaway ironing boards, and white lightning moonshine, and fermented sugar, and solicited dick pics, and shotgun weddings, and gluten-free recipes, and just enough unsalted butter, and pretzel-shaped punctuation marks, drag shows and dancing, and teaching hustles to white folks, and cheap art manifestos, and problematic films from 1939, smut novels, and stuck together pages, and archives, and the Smithsonian, and cocaine kids, and pro-drug campaigns, and googly eyes glued on eyelids, and all the things we disremembered in hopes that it would die. And then I'm just going to briefly kind of explain this other poem. It's called Wokeness 101 Quiz 1 after Wanda Coleman, who wrote some poems called The Aptitude Test. If you've never read Wanda Coleman, go read her. She's just brilliant. I'll read the notes about the quiz section and then like one question from the quiz because I thought it was fun. Please do buy the book and take the quiz if you feel so inclined. I strongly suggest doing it with a pen, with a friend, because it's a fun thing to do. Wokeness 101, Quiz 1, after Wanda Coleman. Notes about the quiz. This quiz is designed to assess your ability at making others feel inadequate in comparison to your scholarly Google searches. You will have 18 seconds to complete this quiz after the first person in your classroom receives it. No quizzes turned in after time will be accepted. If you do not know the answer to the question, skip it and come back. If you have questions during the quiz, direct them to your marginalized friend. However, your marginalized friend cannot define the words in the answer choices or the questions, but can clarify the instructions using only the words printed below. There are 10 questions. We will not read them all, but I still think that probably one of my favorite ones is question number 2. It's set up like SAT tests, so look at it as choosing from options A to E to find the relationship that most closely resembles that of the first pair. So if this thing is to this thing, as this other thing is to the other thing. But question 2 is no thank you is to fuck you, as A, bake sales is to white women, and B, sick and tired is to angry minority. C, liberal snowflake is to okay, boomer. D, dynamite is to explosion, and E, crack addiction is to opioid crisis. So there are 10 questions. Feel free to take your quiz or, live your testing anxiety all over again.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Tom. Such amazing work. And that work was such an amazing success at the Room Project in Detroit the other week. Your work is so inviting to co-write. I love the story that you just gave also from Toni Morrison to you onto the people in the Room Project. It's invitational. I love that about it. It's really great. Thank you so much. And it's my pleasure to introduce Stella Wong. Stella is the author of Spooks, winner of the Saturnalia Books Editor Prize, and American Zero, selected for the Two Sylvias Press Chapbook Prize by Danez Smith. Wong is a graduate of Harvard and the Iowa's Writers Workshop, and her poems have appeared in Poetry, Colorado Review, Lena Turner, Bennington Review, Denver Quarterly, Los Angeles Review of Books, and more. Lovely to have you here. I hand it over to you. There you go.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to the editors, Petra, Vidhu, Carlina, MQR, and Literati Bookstore, and David for having me. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Thank you so much to our readers tonight. My new book is called Spooks. So today, the first poem I'm going to read is called Of Applause. I was a classically trained pianist, and the music school would hold these fundraising galas where we would perform every year. And this poem's connection to flight is through the movement of sound waves. Of applause. The explanation can't be transplanted onto the apparatus criticus, a collection of paleographic matter. Accompanying the addition of a text, Rachmaninoff is sealer, belongs to the sky of chandeliered grace notes. The white-haired deciser who causes controversy, who plucks notes out of the air and antidotes the flattening of detumescence, from slurs, from breaths held too long, the next morning news by the cryptogrammed gent, in a ballroom Babylonia, metachromosomed Pierre, gala where palms and saucers bud for mouths and money, the ovule of etudes draws not around. Thank you again for having me, Petra, Vidhu, Carolina at MQR, and David at Literati. And thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Stella. And I just want to point out like the sort of cosmic nature of your poem that we accepted that also uses this sort of scientific language as well. And I felt like the registers of all the works that we ended up including had multiple sort of cosmic levels in different ways. So thank you for your work, and thank you, for everyone, and Literati. I think I forgot to thank Literati. And incidentally, for those of you in the audience, in the chat, there is an access copy, which I might have forgotten to mention in the beginning. Okay, so our final reader tonight, I'm so happy to introduce Beatriz Yanes Martinez. She, they, is a queer, undocumented Salvadorian poet raised in Long Island, New York, and currently based in Vermont. Their work is informed by bodies of water, oral traditions from their grandparents, a passion for art, and archives. Her work has been published in Bodega Magazine, the Acentos Review, and La Horchata Zine. She has received fellowships from the Brooklyn Poets and the Community of Writers. Let's hand it to Beatriz.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to Petra and Vidhu for selecting my poem for this issue, and I'm really honored to be part of this. And I've loved hearing everyone's work. When I started writing this poem, I sort of tapped into one of the questions that we always ask people, like as a fun fact, like if you could have a superpower, what would it be? And my answer has always been, I want to be able to fly, or I want to be able to operate to a new place. And so kind of thinking a lot the lines of that, I began to also really be inspired by the sound suits that artists like Nick Cave and Simon Vega have created as this type of speculative suits that offer protection or are sort of this vessels for traveling. So I wanted to create my own suit, my own travel suit. Cyborg. Echoes of ochre tore into residue of abandonment. I grew a third skin, umber labyrinths packaged as scans of mildewed impatience. It was the pieces of ash from another burning of caña fields falling like a rainstorm that reminded me I have a ritual to complete. Date of journal, yesterday. I extracted a red anemone from the roots in my head that had haunted me, but instead I uprooted my trauma. The almanac tells me to cultivate it during moonscapes, use indigo and ash to grow it into an antenna. Date of journal, tomorrow. I wait for the eggs to morph into nymphs. This is the long wait. I document or whatever. I enter my own instar. I dream of growing wings. I dream of becoming a ship. I dream of learning to fly. I wake up. Date of journal. It's always the afternoon thunderstorms when the petrichor alters itself into a memory. I walk barefoot collecting cicadas' second skins. I grow sketches of their armor, dream blueprint studies of their exoskeleton after the molting. I use a magnifying glass to trace the map's contour onto their transparent wings. I wait. Date of journal. I wait. I wait. Date of journal. Madrugada. When the anemone membranes itself into the antenna, the cicada's stridulation transforms itself into a compass. I check two things off from my list, map and compass. The cacophony permanents itself into my head. My body becomes nocturnal. Date of journal. I wait. The cicadas enter their next long sleep. I memorized the route, date of journal, the time when the sun glistens in the forest like honey, like lava, or the time is running out. Instar is defined as the stage in the life of the anthropode between two successive modes, ecdysis, date of journal, sometime, yesterday. I designed my spacesuit from mantas y rayos de sol, elytra wings made out of the petals from the anemone, the leaves from the last plantain tree in my grandparents' garden. I built a kite with stems of dried up coconut leaves, yesterday's newspapers, and a thread from Mommy's sewing kit. One day, I grew wings. One day, I became a ship. Date of journal, one day, I learned to fly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a wonderful closing poem for us here. And I'm sure the people who are listening to us, contributors yourselves, you hear the connections, these beautiful connections across all these pieces in so many different registers. Thank you so much. Vidhu, do you want to say? Yeah.
I also just love how this plays with time in an interesting way, this sort of polytemporality, this simultaneity of time, which I feel like was occurring in so many of the pieces. Like, so I love this collection, but also the online folio. And I'm really happy to say that we're, featuring more folks and having like these sort of satellite events and workshops around this idea of SomaFlights. Thank you so much, all of you. And one of the great things, some of you I know, some of you, your work I just discovered, right? And it was a really wondrous thing for me to be be part of this world building community with you. So, I really, really am moved and grateful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight, for joining us on At Home with Literati. And we hope to see you at the next event, and have a great night.
Lovely. We have another event in June and another event in September and another event in June, like bunches of events. Check it all out. Bye, everybody.